interrupt this message for a very important broadcast. Welcome to the Distillery on PodX.
I'm going to be honest with you, that smells like pure gasoline.
All right, what's up, friends? It's your boy Tomahawk hanging out on episode 4 of the Distillery, where today we've got a completely sort of different angle. We're going to go more along the roots of less music, and we're going to go camping, outdoor stuff, bushcraft, real serious stuff for folks that are huge in the scene as when it comes to whether it's hiking and doing so with limited equipment. I'm not talking about doing it in a camper or an RV or something like that. I'm talking about putting the stuff on your back, marching into the bush, and going out and having a good time. First guy I want to introduce, what an animal, Kurt Hanson. Amazing guitar player, hell of a musician, general great thinker, the band, The Weight, but also a great bushcraft guy. Kurt, thanks a lot for joining us, man.
Thanks for having me, Tony.
Now, the whole reason why this conversation started in the first place, or the idea of doing this show, is because I saw your picture on Facebook, which is essentially you wandering out into the bush in the middle of winter, and from what I saw, it was a campfire, a lean-to, and a hammock. Yep. Is this something that you do often, or what?
Yeah, I try to do it at least once a month and get out there. It's kind of one of those things where if you don't use it, you lose it. So you got to keep doing it in order to keep it fresh in your mind. And also that feeling of being comfortable in that situation, because it's definitely one of those situations where you have to be focused on what you're doing, but you also got to have your head on a swivel and be focused on what's going on around you too.
I mean, you could really mess something up. This isn't something that should be taken lightly, but at the same time, we don't want to discourage anybody that would be new to give it a shot, because it takes experience, right? Yeah,
it does. And that only comes with just doing it, getting that time in and having those experiences. Doing something's beeping. I don't know what that was.
The bomb I said earlier is now just about to go off.
Perfect. Thank you.
Well, how did you get started? Did you grow up as a kid that was always tromping out in the bush, or was this something that you kind of fell into later on in life? Because you're a bit of a hippie dude. I mean that in the nicest way. You're definitely a grounded type person. So is this something you got into later in life, or was it always there?
No, I was always going. He was a hunting guide, part-time, not all the time, but my aunt had a resort up in northern Saskatchewan, and that's all boreal forest, the same as like around here, basically from here on upwards, spruce trees, rocks and moss and big animals. So a lot of the same thing. Fishing, I'd go out and spend all day in a canoe by myself from a very early age, and going out camping. And so that really instilled that drive to go out and spend time by myself out there. So
right. Well, and I think for a lot of people it starts as a kid, probably just whittling a piece of wood with a knife. Whether you're making something pointy or actually try to carve something out of it, right?
Yep. My dad gave me a knife when I got it right here. Actually, I just got a new sheath built for it, but this is it.
Oh, man, that's nice.
It's just a Scout Bowie knife, but this was my first knife. And it was not this one, but also with this was a little jackknife that I no longer have. And I took that to school with me. And of course, I got busted having a knife in school. So
it's weird because I remember, listen, I grew up for the most part in Stettler, and the Hicks always had blades on them, and nobody said anything about it. It was just normal to have a folding knife on you. Everybody packed one around. I don't know if it's just small town or maybe where I grew up.
Totally.
Can't do that anymore.
No, oh yeah.
I even tried wearing a blade to work the other day because I was like, I got a brand new blade. This thing's cool, and it's always handy to have this tool on you. And they're like, whoa, man, what's your deal? And I'm like, what do you mean what's my deal? It's a tool. They were concerned that I was packing this thing around.
Oh my God. Well, you're allowed to carry that. The one thing that we can carry here in Canada is a knife. So I always got a knife on me because it's a tool.
Exactly.
Use it for all kinds of stuff, not just
Well, whether you're opening an envelope or, I don't know, Terminator chasing down your dinner or something, that's what it's for, right?
I've used it to break into my own vehicle when I've locked my keys in it at the
Your
bar.
own vehicle.
My own vehicle. Yeah.
That's Red Deer. Everybody knows how to break into a vehicle around here, right? Some of the tools of the trade, though. I mean, when you're tromping into the bush, for instance, like a winter overnight stay, is it just a backpack, or what are you taking with you?
I usually have at least like a 40-liter backpack. I've got all kinds of stuff here ready to talk about it, but I usually have just a simple backpack like this. It's nothing crazy. It's all one big bag on the inside, and that's what I carry everything in.
Nice.
And but then
that's a nice
I'll have
pack.
Yeah, it's a Fjallraven. It's my wife's bag, actually, and it's more comfortable than my own bag. So,
well, and that's the thing. That's where you would start. For anybody probably that's going to get into doing this sort of camping, you got to start with a good bag. You can't just roll out with your regular school backpack or something like that, right?
Yeah, and that's especially when you're hiking, that's your foundation for everything, because you're going to be wearing that for at least 4 to 8 hours a day when you're walking, and man, if it doesn't fit right, you're going to feel it at the end of the day. So
how much stuff are you cramming in there? Like, how heavy a bag are you packing around?
When it's all said and done, probably like 22 to 25 pounds.
Okay, well, that's not too crazy, I guess.
No, but I mean, it can get up. I've got up to around 70 pounds where I'm hiking. But when we get Brian on here from Three Ravens, he's ex-military, and well, those guys, they'll get up to in the hundreds.
Oh God,
100 pounds and stuff. That's why all their backs and knees and everything's all fucked up. But
yeah. Well, let's bring him in. Actually, I'd like to introduce you to Brian from Three Ravens Bushcraft. Thank you so much for joining us, man. We really appreciate it. How you doing?
Good, man. Thanks for having me.
So tell us a little bit about what you do. Three Ravens Bushcraft, I know, is an Instagram page, but what do you do? Like, is it a program or a community or something?
So Three Ravens Bushcraft started about 6 years ago. I was teaching bushcraft and survival skills and wilderness living skills. And I was always doing these contract gigs where they would bring me in to teach stuff. And I got this gig where I was teaching for the Fort Saskatchewan Museum. So I was going to be teaching the skills that the Northwest Mounted Police used when they came up from Fort Macleod in 1876, I think it was. So anyways, flint and steel, basic shelter, that kind of skills. And I was like, cool. And then they hit me with out of left field thing. And they said, well, what's your business name? And, we want a logo so we can put it up on our webpage. And I was like, I don't have any of this stuff. And so night, it happened, right? I had to come up with a name. And so I came up with Three Ravens Bushcraft. And that was the start of it, really. I teach, outdoor living skills, survival skills. That's what my, side gig is. I'm a fire inspector by trade. So that's what the real moneymaker is. The reality of it is there isn't really a whole lot of money in teaching bushcraft and survival skills.
Yeah, that's definitely the labor of love, man. And then I got to imagine what it would be like for somebody that's got as much background as you do, taking some noob like me out and trying to teach us something useful, right? It's got to be interesting to see how far behind some folks are when it comes to general survival skills.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. And you know what? I used to teach for, there's this program put on by Alberta Hunter Education, and it's the Women's Outdoor Education Program. And it teaches women and women only how to use everything from a chainsaw to getting their PAL certification. And so I was brought in to do the survival portion of it. And at first I was like, oh, I don't know, like, are women going to want to listen to me? It was great because they all wanted to listen. Where I'll get guys in my class and they'll stand there and be like, I already know this.
Oh God, it's the worst, right?
So if you're going to come take a class from me and you already know it, then don't waste your money.
It's a beginner thing for a reason, for true beginners, right?
Yeah. And I mean, we can go advanced, but I've had people ask me like, oh, do you do that kind of survival course where you'll throw me in the woods and leave me alone for 3 days?
Like the History Channel's Alone or something like that?
Naked and Afraid.
No, I won't,
You should. Some people you should.
Yeah, well, it's true. It's true. There's some people you want to leave in the woods and never see them again.
Here's a guy I got to introduce one more. His name is Richard Deacon. He's a beauty. He's down there. He's actually closer to the Waterton Parks. A little tiny town in the middle of nowhere. Richard Deacon is, of course, from Pothole Creek Knives. Thanks a lot for joining us, Big Cat. How you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me.
All right, so we're talking a little bit about the tools of the trade, what people need when you go basically to go do some camping, or even if it's any general survival thing. So I got to ask you, when you're building knives, which is what he does, and he builds good ones, what are some of the basic ones you would recommend? I saw Kurt had his childhood blade. What are you building that's simple for everybody that they could pick up on not the
Most
cheap, but
people
like
just
on?
need-
Go ahead.
It's just a quality issue, eh? Like most people need something 4 to 5 inch blade, something like that, draw point, decent carbon steel, full tang, and that's gonna cover most of your bases, I think. Some people like bigger knives, some people like smaller, some like stainless. All depends on what you're after. There's no one perfect survival knife or bushcraft knife. If that was the case, we'd be out of business. Everybody's got a little different wants, little different needs, and that's where a custom knife maker comes in. If you have a specific thing you're after and you can't find it in the store, then you can get it crafted for you. So,
Right.
And that's
For
one of
instance-
those.
Oh, go ahead.
And that's one of those things that comes with spending time in the bush. Is you eventually get to know what kind of knife you really want and what. So you're not carrying different knives out. You just get one that suits for everything. Because when I first started doing this in recent years, I went with a big knife, and then I ended up not using it anymore. So I just use like a Mora, and that serves all my purposes for everything now. So.
Right. Like, so Rick, what kind of blades are you pumping out? You've got a whole pile, a different array of different ones, and I got to get into them a little bit.
I've got a mess of stuff. Like you got your ever popular Skinner type. This one's forged from a rasp. So
I think your connection's a little
spec
bit slow.
on that, and that's just 95 high carbon steel.
Hold on, Rick. I think you're froze up, buddy. There you are. Sorry, man. We missed that altogether. You were froze up a little bit. Get your wife off the Netflix, man. But okay, we're gonna come back to that
noise too.
10 feet away from the router too.
Okay, hold on. We're gonna come back to that. But I want, because he's got some blades that I definitely want to check out a little bit, and I think that's his audio that's going a little crazy too. But the tools of the trade, like he's talking about, it's exactly that. Finding exactly what you need. It's different for everybody. What are you doing out there, right? Are you whacking, lumber with it, or are you just using it to fillet a fish, right? So are you packing multiple pieces of equipment like that, or not so much, Kurt?
I usually have at least 2 knives on me, and then a hatchet or an axe. Axe is better, just because it's safer. The hatchet, that's most of the time people get injured from that, and
really, I didn't know
yeah.
that.
Well, it's because it's such a short handle, and you go to swing at something, and then you miss, and it just the momentum of it carries right into you, and then now you got a femoral artery severed, and you're bleeding out all over the place. But yeah, you get an axe that actually is fit for you, and
yeah, that makes sense.
It's
I mean, when you're planning a trip, Brian, where do you start from? Do you plan for, okay, how long are we going to be there? How many meals do we need to prepare for? Sleeping accommodations? How do you put it all together?
Yeah. So for me personally, obviously I look at the time, right? So like, what do we got? And then one of the first things I always do is just take care of the food and plan out meals. You live and die off your stomach, right? So if you're eating garbage, then you'll perform, like garbage, and you're not going to have a good trip. So having good food is always, priority one. I've been doing this long enough that I can literally, grab everything within arm's reach and go for a weekend and be okay. Obviously planning is awesome, and that's what you want to do. But so food, and then depending on what I'm doing, then it starts in on equipment, right? And there's the basics, like we talked about earlier, where you shouldn't go in the woods without, certain basic items, because you never know, right? You could twist your ankle and be laid up. You're literally only 500 meters from your car, but that's 500 meters you can't make it to, and you're gonna have to hang out until somebody comes and gets you, right? So
right. Okay, so let's start with that. The transportation of equipment we touched on, of course, having a good pack. It matters, and it's going to have to pack everything you need out there. So let's talk about not what you want, but what you need, because as a guy that owns a trailer, it's nice to have a cupboard with all the cooking utensils in the world. Making food is pretty simple. Like, what do you just need? Like a pot that will double as a pan?
Man, yeah. So this is my go-to pot. This is 1,200 mils, right? So it's a little bit more than the liter. It's got a tight fitting. Really not that tight. That's not TV, but it has a tight fitting lid. And the biggest thing is that it's got a bale handle on it. We do a lot of cooking in bushcraft right over open fire. We don't bring stoves with us unless we're in the park and you can't have open fires. And so that, we try to use open fire, cooking techniques 90% of the time if we can.
Yeah.
A lot of the time is spent just processing water with that pot, because you don't carry a whole bunch of water in with you. Otherwise it's just weight, So once you get to where you're at, you want to have that in mind, that source of drinking water, so that it's readily available or not too dirty, that you don't have to do too much to it to process it. But boiling it in a pot, that's the simplest way to have an effective way to have drinking water. So that's a pot is one of the main things to have, because
coffee, man, and coffee. Come on,
totally, man, totally, and good coffee, not that crappy stuff. And that's one of the things for when you start out, you're always using instant coffee, and you wouldn't drink instant coffee at home. So why the heck would you drink it out in the bush?
Yeah, it's terrible stuff.
It makes it feel like shit too. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, water's it's generally 20 minutes from lip to trip. You gotta go out in the bush. So.
Like you say, water's a big deal, but they've got a lot of really neat equipment that's out there now. Have you guys seen these? What are they? The filtration straws. They got all this sorts of stuff. Have you gotten into them? Oh, you got one, Kurt.
Yeah. These guys, they work really good. This last summer was actually the first time I actually used this guy, and it worked all right. You've got to suck like a son of a bitch to get any water out of it. It's kind of it's embarrassing a little bit, but because your ass is up in the air when you're using this drink, unless you put it in a container and then drink out of it.
Right.
Yeah. I don't. I'd rather just boil water and drink that. But
well, in doing that, like boiling water, you could just grab anything. What kind of water you grabbing? You went out to Abraham Lake. Is that stuff clean enough to just grab right out of the lake and boil it up? Or?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, you can pre-filter it if you want to. And a lot of guys will have like, I generally carry a bandana with me, and I'll just pour it through the bandana to catch the big stuff. And then after that, just boil it and you're good to go, And one of the things that really gets missed a lot of time in winter is how much water you need, right? We're constantly needing water. You need more water in the winter than you do in the summer.
What? Really? Why is that?
Because every time you breathe out and you breathe in, your breath needs to be moistened for your lungs. So that's moisture that's being sucked out of your body. And
the air's so much drier with the cold.
And you don't think about, dehydration because it's cold, right? So you're just like, oh, I don't need water. I'll be good to go, right? So it's one of those things. I'll see guys dehydrated where they got the headaches and everything else in the wintertime more than I see it in the summer.
Even just you'll feel it in your skin. Like come the second day, you'll notice like just like your nose and your hands, stuff starts drying out on you because the air's just so much drier. You're not getting that moisture back in like you do in the summertime. So you got to hydrate. You're always drinking water. That, like I said, that processing water is a lot of your time is spent always thinking about that next bit of water that you're going to have to drink, whether it's hot or cold or whatever.
Well, let's get into some food stuffs as well too. I mean, some of the easy stuff you can take out there is dehydrated, add water type food, and then it doesn't take up much weight in the pack. When you're going for an overnight or maybe 2 nights, what are some of the things that we would find in your bag?
I usually have 1 or 2 of those just kind of as a backup or as a main thing. Depends on how lazy I am, really. But I'll usually bring like a chunk of back bacon and then some like a pancake premix or something like that. But I don't have a dehydrator or anything like that, but I'd love to. I know Brian's got one, and that's a go-to if you're going to be really serious about it, is dehydrating your own stuff. Because with that prepackaged stuff, there's so much sodium in it and a lot of other crap in it. That's if you're sweating a lot in the summertime, it's good to get that sodium back in, and that's the whole point of that. But for the most part, it's a lot of sodium. So
yeah,
making your own stuff is a lot healthier.
Well, and in wintertime too, right? You're constantly burning calories, right? So I joke that I put on my winter weight, and then I have my summer weight where I trim down, Speedo season. But the reality of it is, it's like wintertime, you need to be eating like 3,000 calories or you're going to start losing weight, So it's a good weight loss program, really.
I was going to say, now I'm listening. I keep that going.
Yeah. There you go, right? I mean, hey, I'm a big dude. I didn't get this way by not eating,
Right.
And it's taxing too, especially when you're processing all your own firewood, building a shelter. That's tons of calories being burnt right there. Like if you don't have a chainsaw, you find out how quickly and tiring that is to process a tree.
There's your chainsaw right there.
Yeah, right there.
Whoa. Oh, okay. Wow, you're hacking.
Or something like this. This is just for like small things, but yeah, that packing saw like Brian's got, that's the way to go.
What'd you call it? It's a packing saw?
Pack saw.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It all comes apart so that it all fits into the side of your pack.
I got you. Okay. Cool. Okay. Well, those are some of the other tools that you do. But I mean, wintertime, I'm thinking to myself, okay, if you're going to pitch a tent, how the crap are you going to do that? Or that's just not the smartest way to go because the ground is wet. Is that why you're up in your hammock?
No, I just like the hammock because, I'm a weirdo. Yeah. I like it because it's just simple and it's quick and dirty. But what's also like the tent's fine. If you got a good tent that's going to breathe properly, that's the most important thing if you're going to use a tent, because in the wintertime, all that condensation that's coming off of you just freezes to the walls of your tent, and then your tent stops breathing, and then it's just humid and you're wet. And that's when you really start getting into trouble. Is keeping dry is the most important thing when you're winter camping. And that starts with base layers, but your shelter and your base layers and your clothes, it's all kind of works together in the same system, because you got to really think about that when you're going out.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you get wet, man, you're in a world of hurt.
So
tell me about the layers.
Well, can I just rewind? Because there's really 2 types of tenting, and so there's hot tenting and cold tenting.
Yeah.
So, a tent without a wood stove in it is a cold tent, obviously, and so we have no way of mitigating any of that moisture. It's the only way you can do that is having a big fire to drive the moisture out of you, right? But with a hot tent, you can heat that tent up and dry out your kit every day, right? But the payoff or the trade-off, I should say, is that you're going to pay for it, right? Hot tents aren't cheap. and neither are good winter tents. You know,
And heavy.
4-season tent is expensive, and that's why that hammock comes in really handy, because its price point is a lot lower.
I usually always have my hammock in with me, especially if I'm taking other people out, because it's a really good place to get people up off the ground. If someone all of a sudden goes into shock and you need to get them into a recovery position, a hammock is an easy way to do that and not have them start getting hypothermic by losing body heat to the ground, because it gets them off the ground and it gets them into that position where their legs are up above their core, so that it's a good recovery. That's the main reason why I bring that one along all the time, because not just for you, but more and more nowadays when you're going out, especially this last year was the biggest year that Parks Canada and provincial parks had emergency calls, because people don't go out prepared. They think they can just go out, take some pictures, and then they're back to their car nice and safe. And you see them in just shorts and sandals with a little 500 milliliter bottle of Nestle water.
Yeah.
And that's it. And then they look at you like you're the idiot because you got your stuff. And it's like
every year. I mean, when we go out, when we used to go to Abraham on the regular before it got so popular and insane, it would happen every year. They'd have somebody out there dragging them out of the water, or they got in a little tiny like pool floaty out on Abraham Lake, and then the wind had blown them across the lake, and they were stranded. They were hyperthermic by the time they were picked up. And of course, the other dangerous part, there's barely any signal anywhere out there.
Yeah.
They got lucky enough to finally get a small signal so they could get some help.
Abraham is an intense place. It can be really serene and beautiful, and then 5 minutes later, it's just hurricane winds and brutal. But it's beautiful.
Yeah, that's right.
It'll fuck you up real quick, though.
Oh, yeah.
You're not prepared yet.
Yeah, I mean, that time when we were there, what was that, October we were there? And those
end
winds,
of October.
You know, they were like, 60-kilometer-an-hour winds or better. And if you were out in the open, you were screwed. I mean, we tucked into the trees and we were good, but
even just, like when we hiked out there, it was foggy and misty and windy as hell. So it was like perfect hypothermia situation if you don't know what you're doing. And you got to get shelter built and fire sorted out real quick in that situation if you're not prepared. Because that was one thing I've got 40-hour wilderness first aid, and that was one of the things they pressed upon. If you ever get into a situation where you got to take care of somebody, you got to be able to wait for at least 6 hours to get help sometimes. And if you're out in the mountains and you yourself are going to be in a really bad situation and dealing with hypothermia, let alone the person you're taking care of, if you're not prepared. So,
Well, in the winter, that's got to be the worst. I mean, because now everything is wet. Literally, like if you get it on you, it's going to make you wet eventually. So keeping dry has got to be like job number one.
Even in the summertime, you get up in an alpine region up hiking, it can be winter conditions in the middle of summertime up there, and you twist an ankle or fall down an area where you're away from a trail and you can't get back up to it. That was like 50-60% of the call-ins for rescue missions this summer. It's people just wearing improper footwear, and then now they're in a survival situation.
Man, I went up a trail and I've seen it. I saw somebody in flippies pushing a stroller up these trails, man. Not
what are you doing?
Yeah, that's the problem with with the mountains, is that everybody has access to it, and they have access to really dangerous stuff, but they don't realize how dangerous it is. No. And so they go wandering off the trail because they want to go see the goat trail and hope they find whatever. And next thing you know, they're falling down a scree slope somewhere, and they're at the bottom of a canyon, begging for death because that's what's coming.
Yeah, their leg bone is sticking out the side of their
some kind of compound fracture, right? Their arm's over here now, bad day.
Yeah, that's a bad idea. And that's it. When you're packing and you're doing this bushcraft stuff, tell us a little bit about some of the first aid items that are no-brainers that people should be packing.
Well, it's you should have a kit for yourself. And so I have like a little pocket kit. It literally is, like one of those little white plastic guys. It fits in my pocket. Yeah, there, right. And it doesn't have to have, an Israeli bandage or some kind of tourniquet or some kind of thing. It just needs the basic stuff, right? Some tweezers, some 4x4 gauze, really simple stuff.
Yeah. Right. I throw a needle and thread in there sometimes. And
I also put my signal mirror in there just because I know it's safe in there and it's on my body. So if everything goes to shit and I roll down the hill, at least I've got that, on me.
A signal mirror just in case, like, what? Obviously somebody is trying to find you and you're just shining light back at them, sort of thing. That what you're talking about?
Sure. Yeah, so a signal mirror, you can see that up to 5 miles away. Right?
Holy shit, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. So a good glass signal mirror, so they're like $12. You can see that up to 5 miles away. So for $12, I don't really care. I'll put that in there. That's less than a pack of smokes, right? For some people. And then the other thing is like, I've got this with me too, right? So this is bear bangers and this is flares, right? So
fire it up. Do one. Let's go.
Yeah. Office pops.
Office pops. Yeah, I was gonna say. Pop one off, man.
Well, that's awesome, guys. Like, I appreciate that y'all are going out when it looks like this outside, because we've had a beautiful December and into January, making it possible to do it. But some folks, of course, as soon as there's snow on the ground, they forget that it is possible to still enjoy the West Country, and probably in a way that's far less crowded now. Or is that bullshit?
No, man. It's everything's yours now. That's the beauty of it. I almost don't want to tell people that, right? But
too late.
If you can figure it out, if you can, get the right gear and get out there, wherever your favorite spot is in the summer, it's now yours. There's nobody else there.
Depending though too, because like you go someplace, Silver Falls, that place is still like just packed on the weekends, like Brian said.
Yeah, most people aren't camping.
No,
you know what I mean. So they'll leave
camping though. Yeah, that's the difference. Yeah.
I mean, I was just gonna say, that's it. A lot of people forget that there's a difference between bushcraft and camping, right? So you can't just they're not the same sort of association. But when it comes to bushcraft, the general idea is, right, you're going out, you're building your own shelter. You're building your own fire pit, if you will. That's the whole idea, right?
It's more about what you know than what you got.
Yeah, and it's definitely it's being able to look at the woods and use that as your toolbox, right? So I can use this as food. I can use this as cordage. I can use this for fire. I can use this for a situation and that kind of stuff.
Shelter.
And shelter kind of stuff. One of the biggest things lately that's really torquing me off that I'm seeing, and people are calling it bushcraft, is what I like to call man forts. And so I see these guys man forts out there, and they're, they've got these palisade walls, and they've got 500 trees cut down to make a fort. And that's not bushcraft. That's just being a jerk.
Yeah.
I've seen this, because there's all these channels that are very popular on YouTube now. Where you catch and then you see them like, I know what you're talking about. I'm like, that is awesome. But Jesus Christ, is that impractical for some lone schmuck going out there for an overnighter? It makes no sense.
No.
And you get caught doing that on Crown land, man, you're gonna have some serious fucking fines on you.
Really? I didn't know that. What are we talking about?
Cutting down that many trees, live trees, just to build your stupid little shelter. And if you get caught around that thing, and if you don't have a permit to cut all those trees down, you can get in a lot of trouble for doing that shit too. So.
Well, and that's the thing, right? Those guys in those YouTube channels, they're using like Crown land, or they're using like what's some state land, I think is what the Americans call their version of Crown land, and that's everybody's land. That's my land, your land, everyone's land, right? And you're in there hacking down the forest so that you can pretend to play Survivor Man. go watch another YouTube video, and maybe learn something, and give a little bit of respect to the woods, so that more people can enjoy it. Because when I wander through the woods and I find a palisade wall, I get a little upset. Like I want to, because they don't take that down when they're done.
No.
And they'll use it for one weekend in a YouTube video. It's like, piss off.
Right. Yeah, that's pretty fucking stupid. All right, I think we got Dickie's shit work. Hey, buddy, Rick, are you working?
I think we got some stuff worked out now. So
all right, buddy. It's okay. We
a
had
little bit of audio there. Yeah.
Little audio issue, but it's no problem. Kurt, Brian, this is my childhood friend, longtime friend, Rick Deacon. Obviously, we got a little bit into it about building blades. Thank you, honey. My wife just brought me another beer. Thank you, dear. Love you.
That's
all right.
a keeper.
Man, ain't that right?
Yeah, keep that
right.
One. Yes.
Got water.
All right, so show the boys, show the audience a little bit about what you. No, the first thing before you show them, actually, I want to talk about this. Forged in Fire is a fun fucking show.
Yeah, that is fun, isn't it?
It's not reasonable, man. Tell me a little bit about why you think that's kind of generally bullshit for the knife maker.
Well, of course it is. I mean, how can you take scrap steel that you don't know the exact origins or anything of and expect to make a primo knife out of it? It's not going to happen. When you forge knives like that, you're going to have all types of strass, cracks, fissures, nicks, hidden things. You're not going to have your steel at the right temperature when you throw it in the quench. And what is the quench? I've been quenching for like 10 years now, and I've never had one explode into flame like that. That's all for show. It's just pure theatrical bullshit. That's all it is. So
Pothole Creek Knives. I mean, you're buying steel. What kind? Because I've seen you post a couple of different ones. What's the purpose of that?
I only use one type of recycled steel, and that's a Farrier's rasp from Belota. And I've gotten hold of the company on that, and I know exactly what kind of steel it is. And the only reason that's important is you have to know what you're dealing with in order to heat treat and temper it to get the absolute best out of the steel. I usually buy new stuff. I get it right from the mill in New Jersey. I know exactly what it is. I can get the download of the chemical composition. I know how to heat treat it to get the absolute most out of it so you get the best product you can. So
is that the same as tool steel then?
There's tool steel. Yeah, I do a couple different types of that. I use all the conventional stuff, right? Like 01, 1095. I've been big on 80 CRV2 lately. It's really, really tough. Holds a great edge, and it's a common tool steel. It's at a good price point. Or you can even go into the stainless world. I got a kiln, and I do all that type of special stuff if you're needing a stainless knife. So you can go either way.
Is that very common? Is stainless very common? Yeah.
City folk love stainless. And that's because they don't take care of their tools. They can't keep a fucking knife clean and dry.
Or sharp.
Yeah, sharp either.
Yeah,
so I've had people return stuff. They're like, I bought this knife for $200 and it's dull. I'm like, well, what'd you do with it? He's like, I went up hunting. I skinned a moose and 2 deer and used it around camp for a week, and the fucker's dull. Are you serious? You don't even know how to sharpen it. And by the way, if you can do a moose with a knife, that's awesome. So it's a bunch of city people, and they don't know how to take care of their tools. I get a hold of a lot of people, and like this guy, fantastic knife, 8-inch blade on that. That's your survival knife that folks want. And if you need a 1-tool option, maybe you could go with that. That's fine. For everyday use, like I've been in the bush all my life, and that's how I started making knives. Is I wanted a better tool that I could find, and when I did find one, it was a custom job, and I couldn't afford it. So working in a machine shop and knowing what I did about steel, I just made my own. And what I've kind of came to is the best bushcraft knife for my needs anyway. Everybody's needs are a little different. Is something just like this. That's blades as big as the palm of your hand. That's a 4.5-inch drop point, Scandi grind, Brazilian cherry handle. That's really tough wood. And that's about all you need. But
you can fight off a cougar with it too.
You can do a little batoning, a little chopping. It's handy. It's light. You can do all your carving. It's what is this guy? 1095 steel at 60 HRC. If you don't know what that is, that's getting up there on the hardness level. That's where you get the most out of your 1095. You get the best edge retention, and it's still tough.
It's good for if you got a fire steel too. You can throw sparks off of it.
Oh yeah, that baby whips.
Which is fine.
Yeah, spine squared off, so you can use it for scraping. It's pretty much what you need. Unfortunately, this world isn't made up of people who buy what they need. If that was true, everybody'd have a car with a 4-cylinder. But face it, that's what you need most of the time, right? But this is a custom deal. Beautiful Bowie, right there. Beautiful. Yeah, 6-inch blade, contour G10 handle. G10's fiberglass. It's just laser fiberglass compressed under heat and pressure. That one's bolted on with loveless bolts. Custom sheath. It's just your dangler style, so you can wear it, on your belt. It'll follow you, and there's no snaps or anything to ever bugger up. So that was a good practical knife. I'm showing that off. That's somebody who knows what they want out of a tool.
Yeah, those are fucking beautiful, buddy. Now you can also, the cool thing when you're ordering them up is the idea of customization, and that's my favorite part about what you do. I can say, hey, I want a blade about this long. I want it to be very utility, but I would prefer antler or some shit, and then just get it done, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, tell us a little bit about where your page is. It's at Pothole Creek Knives on Instagram.
Yes. Instagram's usually the big one. I got a Facebook page too, working on a website, but that's coming. So and that'll show you most of the stuff I make. So
thanks a lot, Dickie. Appreciate it, buddy. That's beautiful work, man.
No problem.
I gotta show you boys too, because I'm very proud of this fucking thing. Actually, I had him custom build me one as well. Huh?
Oh, there you go.
Now I did make him put the button snap in it. He wasn't into it, but I made him do it. But there you go.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that'll serve you well.
This is a beautiful thing right here. Now, for a city folk like me, this is probably way more than a guy would need. But again, it's a tool.
That's just right.
Is that when you rode to work?
That's what I was saying. I was packing it to work.
Oh, well, see, that's what freaks everybody out. They could see it.
Well, maybe. Yeah. That man has a knife. How dare you? It's ridiculous.
That's not a knife. That's a knife.
Well, that's the thing. A lot of people, I've seen it at trade shows. These giant fucking machete deweys that have got the ridge backs on them and all this shit.
Oh, yeah, the sawback, right? You got to have that.
Yeah. So I guess there's a place for that, but...
Can I tell you a story, a quick story? So I used to do a couples course. So I would take a couple into the bush and I would teach them bushcraft stuff, and it was really fun. And so the guy, he had his own knife, and he had a cold steel tanto knife. And so it looks kind of like a short samurai sword. It is not at all a bushcraft knife. I mean, you can put it through the side of a car door, but it doesn't work wood very well, And but his wife didn't have anything, and so I said, "Well, here you can borrow one of my Moras." So I gave her like an $11 Mora knife, and then we started doing feather sticks. And so feather sticks you make so that you can you process big wood into little wood so that it starts your fire easy.
Right.
And so she was doing feather sticks, and she had it in 20 minutes. She was making a feather stick, but Tonto boy, he wasn't getting it done. And that guy sat around the fire till 11 o'clock at night trying to get it to work. And then finally he said, "Can I borrow a Mora?" And I was like, "Yeah, here you go, man." And he was done in 5 minutes.
Learning
the
hard way.
If you can't get a fire stick with a Tonto, I mean, that's also, I think your skills too are pretty shitty.
And it was dull, and it was a crappy knife, and
dull. Poor tradesman who blames his tools, though. I mean, a sharp edge is a sharp edge. You should be able to make a feather on some wood. So
yeah,
I've done it.
Oh yeah,
you could get a edge on a butter knife and do that too if you want.
Yeah, I've seen people use like box cutters and utility knives and stuff to make feather sticks, and that if that works for you, great. But yeah,
that's a good backup blade to have. Is some of those utility knife blades, because they're ultra sharp. If you need something that's like super sharp, super small and light that you can carry in your pack, and I've done that.
Don't baton with it; you'll be okay. So
yeah, that's right.
So guys, opinion on batoning wood, because there's a lot of people that are for it. They say that every and any knife should be able to handle that type of abuse, and then there's other people that say that that's absolutely ridiculous. Just use your hatchet or axe. So where do you fellas stand on that? What do you think of batoning?
Well, so for me personally, if I'm going to baton a piece of wood, it better only be about that big, right? Yeah. So it should only be about half the blade. That's it. If it's this big and all you got out is just the nub of your, the point of your knife, you're probably asking a bit more than you should out of your tool. Not that you shouldn't be able to do that. It's just not going to function well. And so why not grab your axe?
Yeah.
So
I'm all for batoning, because I've got the same idea as Brian too. I've done it lots, and especially when I'm out just hiking with family or something, and we're somewhere where you can have a fire, and all I got is my knife. I can make a little fire nice and easy with a knife, and batoning is the way to do it.
Yeah, like wrist thick, you're good, but you get bigger than that, you're getting a little obscene, and it's not needed. So, I mean, for making your kindling and stuff like that for a fire, I don't have an issue with that. But and again, you're using a chunk of wood to baton with.
For those that don't know what batoning is, it's you're using your knife, and you got your chunk of wood like a little log, and you're using another heavy object to drive your knife down into it, so it splits it like an axe.
Split it apart.
Yeah.
That's what looked it up. I had to look it up. But these are the general skills, that you need. And I'm glad that there's folks out there that are willing to share it and get some people outside, because that's when we look at bushcraft and we look at what you enjoy in the outdoors. That's the truth of it anymore. There's a lot of people that are stuck to their fucking big screens anymore. And if they are going out, they're doing it in a holiday trailer, and I'm guilty of that. I'm just
with a big screen in the holiday trailer.
I do have one in there.
Yeah. I used to work for parks. I was a conservation officer for 2 years, and I've seen 40+ foot units in the park, and out comes the I had to shut one guy down. He was watching Star Wars outside on his theater screen on the side of his unit. And so at 11, I had to shut him down. He was really angry, and he got really upset that he would have to watch it on 60 inches in the trailer.
Just 60?
Just 60. Yeah. And I was like, dude, that's bigger than what I have in my house.
That's sad.
Do you find, like, philosophically, is it a bigger part of what's going on with people being stressed out, with people being short, that there's just not a lot of folks that are taking in time in nature? Because there was a study that I read, I think it was about 8 months ago, that showed even up to 20 minutes to an hour a day of general just outdoors time completely changes your mood, changes your heart rate, and so much more. And I think a lot of people don't fucking do it anymore, right? At all.
No, we have a lot of cityites now. You know what I mean? We have a lot of guys that live in cities. I always tell people, I don't teach you anything new. What I'm teaching is not a new thing. This is the skills that your great grandfather would have taught your grandfather. Right?
Forgotten things.
Would have went into the woods to go hunting, to go collect mushrooms, to go collect berries, to go collect firewood. And so this isn't new skills that I teach, but we forgot how to do it because we don't go in the woods anymore.
No. That's the thing a lot of people don't realize too, is these modern comforts that we have around us. In a matter of a week, if shit really did happen and hit the fan where all of a sudden the power's out and the shipping stops, you got to know how to do this stuff to feed your family and keep a roof over your head and not die of dehydration or hypothermia, because that's very real. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
what is it? Our city planner said, if there was an ever emergency, you should have at least 72 hours of obviously the basic shit. But if you're a real smart person, you're going to have probably closer to a week of water kicking around, all that sort of shit, right? Think about it. If the taps didn't stop working, it'd be fucking pandemonium in like 2 hours.
Yep. Or if the gas shuts off in your house.
Yeah. I mean, it was funny because I lived on Vancouver Island, and you're in the earthquake zone, and they're constantly saying to you, hey, look, you better have 72 hours of stuff, to survive in your house if an earthquake hits. And a lot of people kind of freak out about that. But if you're into camping and into the outdoors, you've got most of it already covered. It's already sitting in your garage, or it's sitting in your basement. Like, you need sleeping bags, they're over there. You need a shelter. Well, funny enough, you got a tent, or you got a trailer, or you got whatever, right? So the one thing that most people don't have on site is just food, right? And that's a pretty easy one to get. And look what happened when COVID hit, and now there's no toilet paper.
Oh my fuck, that was the dumbest reaction I've ever seen in my life. It's all going down. I need shit tickets. Of all things. Why that? That blows my mind, man.
But it's case in point of just people that have never thought of this, So it's just like, oh fuck, what do I do? And then toilet paper, yes. And like, Okay, well, how about water to drink or food to feed your family?
But you think about it, when you do get out in the bush and you practice these skills or whatever, that would be the general first things that occur to you. General shelter, food, water, like that'll be the first things that occur to you, right? Because you've practiced these skills. But when you've lived in convenience for so long and it hasn't even dawned on you that without somebody providing you things in exchange for a tap of a plastic card, what the fuck are you going to do, right?
There's I can't remember the numbers. It's the rule of threes.
Yep.
It's a 3 minutes exposure. You can die of exposure so that you shelter or / fire. That's what you want to have immediately. And then the next one is the rule of 3 days. If you don't have water, you're going to die of dehydration. And then 3 weeks without food. You can actually survive a long time without eating anything.
Oh, buddy, I've got it all right here. Listen, I got 3 months, bro. Like, no worries.
That's what you see all those people going on those shows and they're all ripped and those survival is like, fuck, that guy's going to be hurting.
Done.
Then, yeah. Sorry, I cut you off there, Rick.
Forget. I don't know.
It all went away so fast. You guys have seen History Channel's Alone? Has everybody seen this?
Oh yeah.
Must have heard of it.
Yep.
Funny enough, I was supposed to be in season 1 of that.
What happened?
So I had a family emergency and couldn't go.
Well,
I had to turn it down. But you know what? I'm not going to lie to you. I've met the guys who've won. I've met the guys that have won different seasons. Being in the business, and there's TV is really it's a double-edged sword, right? And so as we put this podcast out tonight, if I did something stupid like pick my nose, everybody's going to see it, right? And TV is the same kind of way. If you put yourself out there and you did something that you wish you didn't do, it's already out there. It's too late. It's too bad. And one of the examples I have is that there was a guy. I'm not going to give his name, but if you watch the show, you'll know, and it won't matter. But this guy stayed out, in Vancouver Island for 78 days by himself, and he is not remembered for living for 78 days on his own. He's remembered for freaking out on some field mice that ate a sleeping bag.
Oh, I remember that.
And so they filmed that whole episode of him killing the mice and him freaking out and losing his mind. Literally happened for like 2 minutes, and they made that into a whole episode. And so when he came out of the woods, he didn't know how it was edited, right? And when he came out of the woods, people knew him as the guy who freaked out and killed all these field mice and lost his mind, And he's like, "You don't remember that I stayed out there for 78 days?" They're like, "Oh, yeah, that was a long time." It's like, yeah, fucking right it was.
How long, if you guys were real honest with yourself and you had like a self-evaluation, how long could you make it alone style like the show in the woods? Because I'm going to be fucking honest with you. I'd probably make it for 3 years given the fat I'm carrying around. No, not true. I'd crater in like 3 days, probably. Yeah. I just don't think I know enough to provide for myself. And a lot of people cracked because they couldn't get any fire going because it was so wet out there, right? Like if you had to go out, how long would it last?
This is where you got to survive.
Yep.
It's in your head. You know what I mean? For me, I love music, and that was one of my fears of going on the show was like, what am I going to do? Because I listen to music a lot, right? And I was like, what if I don't have music? Is my whole attitude going to change? Am I going to just be singing on the camera the whole time like an idiot? Like who knows, right? But I was like, can I smuggle an iPod up my ass or something and make this work? Like,
speaking of your ass, we got a great question from Travis. What are your bushcraft TP alternatives? What do you use? Can you feather wood down enough to be soft enough?
Yep.
Yeah. Nice and supple.
Cut the top part off your sock. I ripped off a chest pocket one time off my shirt. That was embarrassing. Going back to camp, you're missing a pocket. Other guys, they show up, they're missing half a sock. I don't know if there is a good alternative. You don't want to use a pine cone. Grass is going to cut you. Leaves aren't kind, especially if you use the wrong leaves.
Yeah.
I don't know what to tell you on that one.
Well, I mean, down where you are, you've still got poison ivy, but up where we are, we don't have poison ivy, so we don't have the rules of the leaves of 3, leave them be kind of thing.
Right.
We do got cow parsnip though. You don't want to wipe your ass with that though.
What is cow parsnip?
That's that stuff you see. It's got the big broad leaf, and then it's got like this white
right,
and the crown of flower on it. You see it in the ditch a lot, and
they can be up to like 4 foot tall to like 6 foot tall, and but that stuff you get it'll cause blindness in you if you get some of the flower saps and shit in you, so it'll fuck you up.
Yeah, the sap on it is
terrifying.
The sap on it can make you more photosensitive.
Yeah,
and so you can get almost like acid burns on your skin from the sap. So
you're gonna get some on the back of your balls too, like just
oh yeah,
vicinity. That's not a good time, man.
So here in the boreal forest, we don't have a lot of broadleaf trees. Like you got aspens that have leaves this big, right? A lot of people around the world don't use toilet paper.
So, that's nasty, man. What?
Like, grab your ass cheeks, spread them good, and just let it rip.
We've all had a breakthrough once in a while, So just wash your hands really good after.
Well, that's it. You got to wander into the water and just get right over, just go to work, right?
That's what they do on Survivor. You just go shit in the lake or shit in the creek, and it just floats away, man. It's all good.
just cleans itself out.
Just return it back to nature. That's what you do. So
yeah,
it's a real concern though. When you guys are out hiking and you're out just wandering around, is it amazing to you how you could find used shit tickets in the middle of nowhere? It'll just somebody have left it out there.
It's disgusting.
Right beside the trail.
Yeah.
Generally only about a foot off the trail though.
Yep.
People are like be kind enough to dig a hole with their heel or try to hide it or anything. I mean, just right there. There's ass white flapping in the wind. It's stuck on a thorn bush or something, and
it's windy too. Why. Blow in your face or something.
This was bad because everybody was crown camping and nobody digs a latrine anymore. It's just they go 3 feet away from their campsite and nice.
Well, what do you do? Like, what do you do for taking a deuce out in the bush? Are you digging holes or?
Yeah. You just if that's what you're gonna do, you can just dig a little hole.
I burn the toilet paper.
Yep.
The toilet paper generally gets burnt.
Or we do like where we talked about the log breaking. You have that. You can just sit your ass over a log and shit over that. Well, last time we were out was in October there, Brian and I. On the second night, Brian went back to go check on the facilities and noticed there was grizzly tracks going right by the.
Yeah. Well, man, I mean, it could attract other critters. Will they smell that and be like, "What the fuck is?" And they get curious and come poking around, or what?
Yeah, for sure.
That's what drove that bear in because it smelt that probably from a long ways off, and then come checked it out and then went on its way. But that's a big part of having that latrine. It's doing it and digging a hole is half the battle. It's also putting it away from your camp a good enough distance away so that you're not going to have a bear walk into your camp because you just took a shit right beside your tent. And but having it far away and downwind from you too, so that it's not going to
so you're not smelling it around the fire.
Yeah. And it's not also the bear's not going to come through your camp to get to your shit pile and then see, oh, look at all this food, which you shouldn't also have in your camp.
Well, storage is a big deal, man. You gotta store your food up high. You got to keep your shit away. But these are simple things, right, that a lot of folks wouldn't understand or know about unless, of course, they've done a little bit of research or they're going out with somebody that's got some sort of training. Have you guys what have you run into out on your tromps around in the bush? Have you bears, you've said, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Are you packing rifles with you?
Hell no.
No.
Right here, man.
What? Really?
No.
Bear spray.
Bear spray, yeah.
98%
knife.
Bear spray is kind of a double-edged sword too. You really want to check the wind on that. I've had a bad experience. Next thing you know, you're blind and there's a fucking bear there. Great, that's going to help you out a lot. So, bear spray's
Yeah. Just play dead.
Yeah, look big. That's what you do.
Yeah.
That's
Man, I couldn't do it. I couldn't be playing dead. I'd be trucking, and I know they would run me down. But I'm just saying that I couldn't just lay there.
No, it's so obviously it's funny when you do bear research and you find out like what's happened like 90% of the time. A vast majority of bear attacks that happen because wrong place, wrong time. So somebody has walked in between mama bear and baby bear, or baby bears up the tree, and they're like, "Oh, cool! I'm gonna go look at this bear in the tree," and then mama bear takes them out, right? And then it's like, well, when I'm getting attacked, am I supposed to lay there and play dead, or am I supposed to fight back? Because do I fight back because it's a black bear, and then I lay there and play dead because it's a grizzly, or do I let it eat me because it's a polar bear?
If it's a polar bear, man, you're going down. Like it's don't they fucking start eating before they even killed anything? They just eat.
oh hell yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they're the only predator we have in Canada that actually hunts people. Right. So bears, like grizzly bears, mountain lions, they'll stalk sometimes, but you aren't a food source. You're like more of a curiosity and like, why are you here and what's happening? But polar bears are known to actually like hunt humans. When things go south, they're like, there's one in this ice box. I'll just eat this one,
You get the odd predatory black bear that will do that, but that's like getting struck by lightning. That's
like it's already been habituated by humans. It knows that people bring food, so food equals humans. So that kind of stuff. But the reality of it is that bears do not want to eat humans.
They don't want to be around you. They don't have anything to do with you.
Wolves don't want to eat you. Cougars don't want to eat you. We don't live in an environment where all the animals want to eat you. When it happens, it's a rarity. I had a great statistic the other day. More people die in national parks from selfies than from bears.
Yeah, how many people are falling off the edge of Grand Canyon because they're fucking taking pictures, man? Like, what are you doing?
One a year at least dies in national parks from selfies.
Well, even look at Crescent Falls this year. How many fucking people fell over the falls? Like, didn't we have 3 people die or something?
3 people died in the falls going swimming. Why you would go swimming at the base of a falls like that one? That's a nasty falls in the bottom of that one too. But I was gonna say too, like with the cougars. We saw that on that famous video that came up this year, that guy out hiking.
Oh, yeah,
That's a guy not having situational awareness. He's running down a road with headphones in, so he's not paying attention, and he's walking with runners, so he's pretty quiet. He snuck right up on that family of cougars, and that was just a reaction from that mama being like, whoa, what the fuck's this guy doing here? Get away from my cubs. And so that's another big part of bear safety, or just animal safety in general, is making your presence known. Not bear bells. That's basically a dinner bell.
Is that real? Really? Bear bells?
We don't honestly, like, just make some noise.
Talk.
Sing. Talk, sing, yell, do the old hey bear.
Yeah. I do that at least every 5 minutes, especially if you're coming up over a crest or blind corner. Just give a hey bear. I mean, you might run into people and they'll look at you funny, but it beats getting mauled to death.
How close have you come up to a bear?
10 feet. That's
close enough.
Yeah, I mean, I had one in Parks that was like that, but on a camping trip down by Rocky Mountain House, I ran into a grizzly, and tight trail, Saskatoon berry bushes up on either side of the trail. I should have known better. I should have been paying attention. I wasn't. I was just head down. I got to get to the, where I want to go. And then I, come around this corner and there's this sow, in the trail, and she's eating berries, doing what bears do. And I was like, oh my God, and I like dropped my head and I put my hand out and I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm like, this is yours. I'll leave, and I slowly backed away from it. And luckily, just backing away and getting, 10 meters away, I was on the other side of those bushes where she couldn't really see me. And then I booked it down the trail, and I came up to my buddy and I was probably white as a ghost. And he's like, "What's wrong?" And I'm like, "Oh, there's a grizzly bear." And he's like, "Okay, well, let's go." I'm like, no, we're good. We're good here for a while, So we held out for about 10 minutes and then moved on. The bear was gone,
Well, running into critters is becoming more and more common because of the population, right? Like we've just forced them into these tight areas, or we're through building roads and stuff. Our excursions are going deeper and deeper into their territory. Some of these trails go way back in there. So, I mean, that's a big problem that we have when you look at the conservation going forward. A lot of people crowd the West Country, and especially some of our favorites in the Abraham Lake area and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But it's so strange to me because when I was down by Rick Deacon's area, it's sort of rolling hills, but there are fucking million other places you could go other than the mountains. And a lot of people don't think to look east, if you will. Or do you guys ever go to places like that when you're doing your camping? I mean, Dickie, you live right in that.
I can go anywhere. Yeah, like 45 minutes. I can be in the mountains or Milk River over there, looking at hoodoos, whatever you want. So kind of nice, but
you're in an area where we're small towns. It's a lot of small towns, but it's not real big city areas. It's fucking beautiful down there, man.
You get north of Waterton on a gas plant road or something, though, and you wouldn't believe the people you find still, like they have no business being there whatsoever. And you get talking to them, and like you said, they're walking around with flip-flops on sharp rock roads and everything. They don't have any extra clothes. They don't bring any water. They don't have any first aid, and they got little kids. This is the absolute recipe for disaster. Due to COVID, these people had nothing else to do. So they get out of town. And I hate to say it, but they've watched a couple YouTube videos and they think they know more than they do. They're overestimating their capabilities and their knowledge, and it just ends up in a shitstorm for them. So more often than not, you try to have to help these people out. They're, "Oh my God, my daughter sprained her ankle. Now what am I going to do?" You're like, "Do you have a bandage to put on it? Like even a tensor or something?" "No, I didn't bring anything." You're 4 miles from the trailhead. What are you doing back here with nothing? Like, what the fuck? Seriously. Like, I got a sling pack on. It's got about everything I need. It's pretty light. And on it, I got a knife strapped. I got an extra blanket. I got a steel King canteen that you can either boil water in, have a liter in. I got a, water straw in it. I use a Sawyer Mini. I like that better than the Life straw. And just all the stuff you'd need for a day out, because you have to think, and this has happened to me. This is where, the knife thing comes in, is I've been that guy who was out hunting and, you're tracking an elk actually that year. And next thing you know, you look down and it's like 4:00 and it's dark. And you get this sick realization because you're not making it back to your truck before night. You're not. You fucked up. You went in too far. You got lost. You lost track of time. And now, with it getting dark, you got to make some shelter and you got to get some firewood going. Otherwise, it's going to be a long, cold night that you're probably not going to come out of. Your pants are wet, your boots are wet, and things are going to shit. So what do you need to try to weather that type of situation? Well, you have to be able to start a fire, but that's where the tools come in. So carry a decent knife, have some tools, and hope for the best. But yeah, there's people going where people shouldn't go right now. So
people forget that a lot, though, too. But what are those MREs?
I carry this guy in my pack all the time. It's just a simple
reflective blanket.
It's a Mylar. Yeah, it's basically a tarp version of a Mylar blanket, which is even smaller. You throw that in your kit, you can still make a shelter and sit under this thing. The thing about this, though, it's very misleading. People read blanket, and you don't want to use it as a blanket because it works for like 20 minutes as a blanket, but then it just becomes a water tank, and you're going to be just sweating into it, and that just you're in this bubble of sweat and gross, and then you die of hypothermia.
Good times.
So, that happens more often than you know. People think that they can use it as a blanket, and they end up in a survival situation or dying because they think it's a blanket.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing with that blanket too is that it has no R value, right? So blankets have an R value. They'll make you warm because there's insulation there, right? But what that does is it reflects your body heat back to you. So if you take that reflective blanket and you put it on the outside of your puffy jacket, right, your down jacket, whatever, it's got to, the heat from your body has to get through your down jacket, your base layers, all those things before it bounces back to you. So it doesn't work like a blanket, and that's the one thing, right? Like Kurt said, it'll get you in trouble if you think it's a blanket.
The better way to use it is part of your shelter. And if you get a fire going, because then you get that fire in front of you, and then it'll reflect heat back behind you too.
Oh yeah, okay, that makes sense.
That's mostly what I pack it for, is to do something like that, because then your group, a whole group of people, can utilize that as a shelter and heat source. So,
are you guys packing out fire starter stuff with you, or are you just feathering out, or
a little bit? I'll take a little bit of jute string with me, and it's like it's just that stuff you find like in the garden. It's a hemp string, and you can untwist it, and it comes apart real easy, and you fray it apart, and that's just a little easy way to pack that. It doesn't weigh anything, or you just throw it in your pocket, but it helps to get a fire starting. But you don't need to bring extra crap with you if you know what you're doing.
Right.
That's just a cheating way to just get a leg up if it is we need a fire right frickin' now, and it's wet out and raining. You can help yourself get a fire a little bit easier. But
I learned my lesson. Yeah, I carry the cotton batting balls covered in Vaseline, a little container of them, like a film can. Mm-hmm. And that's just like, if I always imagine myself, if I break an ankle, that's my thing. If you broke an ankle and you can't really get around to help yourself, you're going to need a little bit extra help. So just having that extra bit of fire starter is a really nice thing. If you got time and you can search up natural resources, great. But there might be a time maybe when you can't, if you're hurt or something. So
sometimes you can't find that perfect kindling right off the bat, and you need a fire right away. And
but that's why we got to plan when we're going in, right? So if we're going in camping, we're going into the woods, we're going to go, do whatever. And I walk by that resource, so I see the birch tree that's, though you guys down south don't have as much birch as we do up here, but I mean, you can take the paper birch off the side. That's probably the best fire starter going. You just stuff that in your pocket as you're on your way. And hey, you get back to the car with a pocket full of birch bark. Well, big deal. Use it next time, or whatever, right? But when I see resources, if I'm going camping and I'm on the trail and I see something on the side of the trail, I'll pick it up. And speaking of birch bark, I don't want you to girdle trees, right? I don't want you to jam your knife in there and slice off the big side and open up the side of the tree so you can get that birch bark. You don't need that. That's not what we're talking about. We're just talking about the fine papery stuff on the outside. You're not hurting the tree at all to take it, and it's going to help you a lot if you need it.
And if you can find the down trees, pick it off of that. That's
yeah. I mean, generally, if there's a stand of birch trees, one of them's dead.
Yeah,
that's right. What do you guys think about all of these new fancy technological pieces of equipment? I've seen a buddy of mine's got the heated jacket now. You can get the heated gloves and all that stuff. What do you think about that? Is that a tool to utilize, or is it just that's relying on something that could possibly fail you?
I'm going to guess it's probably going to fail, I know those heated hoodies, that Carhartt makes them, and DeWalt and Makita and all those guys have them because their battery fits in them and they're really cool. But they're a hoodie. So when the battery dies, you went from having this super warm jacket to a hoodie.
Right.
That sucks.
Now you're screwed.
Yeah. You can't take it into the spruce,
I find too, with if you spend time in the wintertime camping and you're by the fire all the time, if you're not going away and getting away from that fire, your body gets used to having that heat source all the time to rely on. Because then as soon as you get away from that fire, it's just like, holy shit, it's cold out here. Yeah. And then you're like, okay, get back by the fire and I can't do anything. So I wouldn't rely on something like that, because when you're in those situations, there's a lot of work going on and you're burning calories and you're going to be hot anyways and sweating. Right. So it's more for if you're doing work and you're near a charger that you can keep changing batteries out on. It's a convenience thing.
Yeah.
it's going to run out of batteries, and then now you got this extra weight. You can throw it in the fire and then have a nice cool bang. That's one benefit, I guess.
One of the things I want to discuss is going forward, some of the rules and conservation regulations that some folks are calling for and some are very against. Now, Rick, I don't know if you know this, but the province was interested at one point in time in basically creating a brand new parks area, which is west of Rocky, and regulating it a lot more. And a lot of people were pretty pissed about that because right now it's pretty much Crown. It's straight up, right? You can go wherever. But we've seen some serious fucking problems with that. The overcrowding of these trailers where they're just pulling off the side of the road and just throwing, and camping there. There's got to be some sort of regulation. But at the same time, I love the freedom of not having to pay a toll or any of that too. But some people are also making some goddamn messes. So what's the balance with that?
It has been passed now where they're going to where you do have to have a backcountry permit for those places now. It's a $30 fee. I think that's going to be going into effect here for the summertime. But for those people that are doing that, because the reason you get those people parking in the ditch is because there's people going and parking their camper in their prime spot 3 months in advance and then just leaving it there so that they can have that spot all summer.
Yeah, and you can only be there for 16 days.
But they'll just stay there.
Yeah, because there's not enough parks to enforce it.
No.
Like there's not enough conservation or fish and wildlife or whatever to enforce it. So yeah. And
it would require an entire restructuring of how everything would work out there. Entire staff systems, all that sort of shit, right?
Mm-hmm. And like fish and wildlife, they just got turned into sheriffs, right? So now they're on the road dealing with whatever sheriffs deal with. They're also dealing with what the RCMP deal with. So now instead of your conservation officer just taking care of that kind of backcountry stuff, he could be called away to a domestic. And what's going to be more important, the domestic or the guy who's got his trailer parked there for 17 days? Well, obviously the domestic, right? So they're going to be pulled out of the woods doing those things. Poor management.
You just need people that are, like, for me, I feel like we need people that are in place to constantly check, number one, for obvious overcrowding, for illegal camping on the side of you cannot pull your holiday trailer to the side of the fucking road, people. For those that are watching, they'll do this. But there should be some really serious tickets for that sort of shit. And the other side of it that really concerns me too is all the glorious other little places that are kind of out of the way, down the Forestry Trunk Road and stuff like that. They're getting overrun as well, and they're leaving fucking messes out there in these pristine areas too. So I don't know what the solution is going forward. A lot of people don't like the idea of having another park system for our side of the West Country, but I think there's a middle ground that would be awesome.
Well, see, one of the things about Alberta is that we have more RVs than any other province. We have more RVs than Ontario per capita.
Holy shit.
Yeah, right? So think about that, right? We've got more RVs out there on the road in the backcountry doing those things, right? Why? Because we have more disposable income in Alberta, right? We got guys buying quads and side-by-sides and toy haulers and all those things, and they want a place to use them, because why would you spend that kind of money if you don't get to use it? And I totally understand, but the side effect of that is if you're going to use it, you're going to be regulated somehow, right? I mean, if everybody's going to leave garbage, somebody's got to pick it up. If it's going to be picked up by somebody's got to pay somebody to do it. So therefore, you gotta have a fee.
And that's what's driving all these guys out to the backcountry using these places, because there is no regulation. You can drink past 11 o'clock. You can fire off fireworks all goddamn night. You can ride your ATV with an insanely loud exhaust on it till 5-6 o'clock in the morning if you want to. And they do. I've been out there. And it's nonstop party. You can hear music from like 10 kilometers away booming. People screaming and hollering and laughing, and quads and
that's probably me, man. I'm sorry about that.
And it's
fine, but I was probably partying until that late.
and I mean, I get it. Like that used to really piss me off, but then it's just that's people's way of connecting and getting away from the city. So he can't.
Well, Rick, you live down closer to a massive park down there. You're in McGrath. So how far are you from the park?
Oh, we're whopping 30 miles as the crow flies. By the time you take the road, it's 40 minutes to get to the park. And sadly, the park is someplace, Waterton Park. And I don't go there. I just cut across the reserve and take a gas plant road in and enjoy them there. But we're dealing with the same thing down here as you guys are up there. They're trying to turn the Castle area into Castle Park. And a few years ago, they made it so that there were no off-trail off-road vehicles. You couldn't take your side-by-side and everything and just rip up because they were causing too much damage. They were causing erosion. It was actually, terrible on things. And now they're taking it a step further because there's so much, like you said, just crap. Like in the places I used to take my wife and kids, we'd load up the old van and head in, and it was clean and pristine. Last year, it wasn't. Like there were still hot fires burning. There was garbage. There was poop. There was, people had huge pallet fires and just left a mess. And yeah, they're really ruining a beautiful area. So you have to try to balance management and regulation with freedom still. And it's a sad thing, but you get a few bad apples and they're going to ruin it for everybody. So.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah. I think there's the balance there. At the very first, what they should do is probably try and regulate a little bit more around our Abraham Lake area, and then just go from there. I mean, start with that. That's where I see it the worst, right? I don't know. Up at Moiraine, I believe it's only day. You can't camp overnight there. You can just stop in for the day, I believe. Is that bullshit? That's what I hear. Do you guys go up there, Moiraine? No? All right. Well, couple of real quick things before we take off. Thanks a lot, guys, for basically filling us in on some gear that you're gonna want to think about. The idea of just thinking about your general situation from one to the next. For instance, you need food. You need to be able to cook that food, water, and so forth. These are the basic things to think about. I encourage you to take a class. Brian, can you tell us a little bit about where people can get some education, especially if they want to go with their kids and stuff like that?
Yeah. So, I mean, if you're up in Edmonton, you got the Boreal Forest Institute, Bruce Wawalski. So Bruce wrote a good book. I released it a couple years or 3 years ago, maybe now. If you want to take a wilderness immersion course, so you want to spend a week out there, you can go to Caramount Wilderness Ways, and that's out in Wildwood. Myself, you can get me to teach you stuff. Again, I'm kind of small business, small time. And then, I guess there's a ton of survival instructors and wilderness living skills instructors in Alberta. But the biggest part about it is just do your research, right? Try to find some ratings on these guys. Try to find some information on them, because there's so many fly-by-night guys. Right. And there's there's guys that literally they'll take a course from me and they'll start a school the next day, and they want to get their money, and there's no money in this, honestly. So, and then honestly, somebody probably knows more than you do about the woods. So go hang out with them, right. Go learn from them,
take a day or something.
Yeah, like I before I started my school, I used to teach all my friends everything I knew, because I was just that guy. I was interested in it, right? I started out in the infantry, so of course I spent a lot of times in the, in the woods. But that's crappy camping. When the recruiter says you like camping, don't believe it. It's not camping.
All right, well, tell us a little bit where people can find you on Facebook, Instagram, and follow you up and catch some tips.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I'm on Instagram. I am on Facebook, but Facebook and Instagram are the same thing. And I'm on YouTube. I'm kind of on Twitter, but not really, because I don't really use Twitter that much.
The place to find you, hey?
What's that?
Instagram's basically the place to find you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's where I do most of my stuff. I just put it on there.
3 Ravens Bushcraft on Instagram. Hey, Kurt, thanks a lot for for joining us, talking a little bit about your experience and some ideas maybe going forward with good places and what people need to watch for. And keep the photos coming, man. I appreciate watching you on your adventures, and it's inspiring. You know, maybe I'll get off my ass and get out there and come out for a trip sometime.
Well, I'm planning on. I'm a hiking guide, certified through the Interpretive Guides Association of Canada. I am going to be starting to do guided hikes here in the new year. Well, I guess it's new year now, but it's going to be a lot of focus on that reconnection with where you're at and having that situational awareness of what's around you and being able to identify certain things.
All right. Well, where can people find you?
Well, at Mud and Lotus on Facebook, and like you can see in my handle here, that's my wife and I's business name. You can check us out there, Mud and Lotus on Facebook, and at mud.shop.lotus on Instagram as well.
Okay, perfect. And Rick, thanks a lot for joining us. Hopefully everything's going well down there in McGrath. It was great to talk to you again. Tell us where people can find your info for ordering up their own custom-made blade.
Usually just Google, and then you can shoot me a message. I got a Facebook page, Pothole Creek Knives, or Instagram under the same name. So lots of ways.
All right. Well, go ahead and get your brand new blade so that you can go take a class from one of these fellows, or a class from Brian, and then go on a hike with Kurt. You see, it all comes full circle right here. Thanks a lot for joining me, guys. I want to tell you too, for you parents that have kids,
From Rick,
another great.
from
Well, Rick, take a class. For you parents that have kids, Youth HQ, they have Camp Alexo. That is a great way for your kids to start to discover the outdoors. They do canoeing, they do camping, they do all that sort of stuff with their own guides. Start them young, right? That's the whole idea. So thanks, fellas. That's going to wrap it up for today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having
me.
Have a good one, guys. And we'll see you